Hello friends, welcome back. We are discussing Domain 1 security and risk management, and the topic of discussion which I'm going to start from this episode onwards is social engineering, and I will take some time to explain social engineering. It's one of the very important topic from exams perspective as well. It's interesting and it's one of the hottest topic of discussion, topic of debate in the media and in cybersecurity world, right? So we kind of have this love-hate relationship between organization and attackers. Like, sometimes we celebrate them, and sometimes we see them as a bad people. Yeah, so we will demystify all those things, and we'll try to see from a CSSP professional perspective how we look into the social engineers and how we deal with social engineering attacks. But before we go there, I would like to present you some interesting information from various sources, and I think this type of information I have already discussed in when I was discussing type of investigation, ethics, and EDRM things, right? So there is a whole episode I have covered in there, but I will try to recap those things and will explain how this the problem of cyber evil exists, and what is the genesis of it. So bear with me. Some of the information which I will be presenting here comes from the religious belief which I hold. If you don't like it, you can skip the video, or if you find it interesting, you can still hold on. Even if you don't like it, there will be something interesting which may excite you, or or it can develop some different paradigm or different angle of looking into the same thing, right? So let's dive into it, and let's go to the drawing desk first, where I will be presenting the introduction of this topic. Yeah, so social engineering basically is about basically about two things if you look into it, and it comes from the nature of exploitation, right? So social engineering exploits human nature and behavior. This is the key to understand, right? This is social engineering. The name is something which I don't like personally, but since this is the part of syllabus, we have to call social engineering. But it's kind of anti-social engineering, I will say, or anti-social evil practice, right? So if people have the sense of a true natural principle of truthfulness, love, sacrifice, helping other, if every person on this planet have this type of tendency to hold on these principles, like security executives or security professionals try to achieve confidentiality, integrity, availability, right? These are the fundamental principles of the information security world, right? Similarly, in our human ecology or our human world, there are the principles of truthfulness, integrity, sacrifice, love, respect, compassion. So these are the principles, and these principles are told to all of us from our childhood in the form of stories, in the form of some religious rituals. These things are coming in, although we see that there is a slight change in the coming generations, and the way this whole world is advancing, everything is being critically scrutinized. Like something which is moral and ethical for you may not be moral and ethical for other people, and they have the valid argument to justify their actions, right? So if people hold on to those old school classical definition of being honest, being truthful, then there will be no problem. Like there will be no issue in this whole universe of human being. But people have varying definitions, varying degree of acceptance to those principles. So that's where the problem is. Similarly, in information security world as well, attackers, they have their own definitions of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and they want to play with it, right? So it's a very subjective subjective discussion, when it comes to who is ethically right or wrong, then we have to look into the issue from a legal point of view, that whether it is legally right or not. And to have a legal definition, we put some rules and regulations, and we put some constitution basically to do those decisions, right? Now that's human behavior, human anthropology, you will say, that there are people who want to exploit this natural behavior, natural innate behavior of human being, which make themselves vulnerable to certain activities, right? So social engineering is basically exploitation of human nature and behavior, and it tried to achieve this exploitation in two forms: either convincing someone to perform an unauthorized operation, or convincing someone to reveal confidential information. So if someone can, convince someone to reveal some confidential information, like the username and password, or the database value, or something like some secret paper, top secret information, so that's revealing the confidential information. Or the attacker or the evil person can convince someone to do some operation which will be an advantage to that attacker, right? In both the cases, what results is that this results in information leakage, or the attacker is granted some logical or physical access. So in either case, there is an advantage attacker have, and they can do whatever they want based on what type of access and authorization they get. So this is in a nutshell social engineering. Now we'll be looking into the social engineering type and social engineering principles basically. And before I go there, I would like to give you some interesting information, as I said before. So let's explain you certain things which might be interesting. And if you don't want to get involved in this kind of information, then you can just skip the video, right? So let's start let's start discussing what is how human mind is developed, and how it conceives something which is interesting enough for committing a crime basically. So first of all, when we talk about knowledge, let me put this word here, knowledge, right? What is knowledge? Knowledge is about knowing things which we didn't know before, right? We have some information which we never had, and we gathered it from somewhere, right? That's knowledge. And it's specific to human beings, right? It's kind of interesting to go into that discussion. But the knowledge itself can be gathered in two ways. One is called observation and experimentation. And the other way of knowing knowledge is from what we call revelations, right? Now, this one, observation and experimentation, is something which is foundation for scientific knowledge, right? This gives rise to scientific knowledge. And revelations, classically, they are part of religious teachings. So what's the classical difference? I don't have to explain it. Anyone can decipher it. Like the whatever we observe in this environment, ecology, universe, whatever, we observe it, and based on the observation, we kind of build some hypothesis that okay, this could be the reason why this is happening. Then we go and do some experimentation to arrive at some conclusion for that observation, right? So then we do repeated experimentation to prove or disprove the hypothesis. And once we have a repeated set of outcome coming as part of an experiment, then we say that okay, we have got some knowledge, and that knowledge is one of the secret of the universe or the ecology where we live in, right? That's the basis of scientific knowledge. It's purely observation and experimentation. It is limited to our human intellect, right? That's how the we see observation and experimentation. That's where we get all the scientific knowledge. Now, revelation is something which is kind of a knowledge which humanity gets from the people who are who people consider them as the ambassadors of God, right? So there are people who believe that this whole formation of the universe, this whole system which we see, is not a random chance. It's not something which popped out like a bunny in the magic hat. There is some divine force driving everything, and every action and reaction in this universe is controlled by that divine power, and that divine power has revealed some secrets, some informations, and those secrets and informations take form of religious teachings, and they kind of give humanity some principles to live in or to understand so that they can survive on this planet, right? Basically, so these religious teachings give some life principles, right? So this is the objective of revelation, and the objective of science, on the other hand, is basically discovering the life principles, right? So this is basically discovery of principles. So when I am presenting the idea or I'm presenting some explanation, I will be giving both the references. It's up to the audiences, you guys, to take or reject whatever you feel is logical, reasonable to your knowledge, right? I come from a Muslim family, an Islamic background, so I will be focusing my references when it comes to revelations to Quran, Old and New Testament, and some of the Indian text as well, from Rig Veda or Bhagavad Gita, the classical. Actually, it's not a revealed book; it's a written book. It's in the form of a story, but I will be restricting my information which I'm presenting here to the books which I have personally referred in my life. Okay, so this is how the knowledge system is. Now, people who tend to align themselves only in this realm identify themselves, most of them identify themselves as atheist, and people who are 100% believers in only the revealed text from the religious books, they are actually believers. There are different types. I'm not going into that, but this is how they are. There are people who take the best of both the worlds. They don't reject the knowledge which is derived from observation and experimentations, and they don't reject the key life principles which they see coherent with their experiences or with their logic and reasoning. So those are the kind of people who are having who take their life decisions, or who take the source of truth from both the places. I happen to be one of them. So there are people who are believers, but they don't reject science, or there are people who actually are scientists, but they believe in some divine power or some sort of controlling authority behind this whole universe, right? So these kind of people are, there is no name for them. They are just people. there are some different type of people who have this kind of conception. Now, when we discuss the concept of I will be trying to relate everything in terms of the topic which we are going to discuss is like the principles which attackers or hackers try to try to use to exploit human behavior, basically, right? So if you look into the history, so this is the type of knowledge I'm referring to. That's why I have created this kind of flow to let you know that this is the background of all the information which I'm going to present. Now, if you look back into the history in very dim past, the scientific knowledge which we have as of now is that somewhere around 13.8 billion years ago, it's billions years ago, something happened, right? And that happening was called the Big Bang. Now, this Big Bang was discussed very late in I think 1917 or 18 or somewhere around, right? I don't know the exact date on top of my head, but it was discovered recently. Now I will show you the beauty of both the knowledge, the scientific knowledge and the revealed knowledge here. Now, when you talk of Big Bang, before the discovery of Big Bang, everyone thought this universe is a static universe. Like it has got no beginning, it has got no end, it's just there, right? Because when we see with our eyes, the stars are there, the different collection of stars, they stay in the same place. So people think that it's a static thing. We are just here. We happen to be here. There is no beginning, there is no end. So that was the conception. On the other hand, if you look into the religious book, which was revealed some like 1500 years back, and if you look into some old information as well from some Hindu scripture in Vedas, there you will find this concept of the start of this universe, right? Even in Old Testament you will get this notion. So what I will do, I will just give you one glimpse of one of the text here. Right, so this is Quran, Holy Quran. The website is very easy to find, Quran.com, and you put your chapter number slash verse number, right? So this is chapter number 21, verse 30. Now what it says that do the disbelievers are those people who don't accept the knowledge derived from revealed information. So I told you about there are two sources of knowledge, basically. If I go to my drawing desk again, one is observation and experimentation, one is revelation, right? So people who don't believe in revealed knowledge, it's kind of showing some signs so that you can relate your observation and experimentation based knowledge with the divine knowledge, right? So do the disbelievers not realize that the heaven and earth were once one mass, then we split them apart? So here if you see clearly that this book, which was revealed some 1500 now, I will say, years back, is talking about Big Bang, which is discovered recently, right? And we created from water every living thing, will they not then believe? So this is basically a pointer to people to look into some of the facts which is being discovered right now in this time and age. And this information, because at that time there was no scientific method, there was no advanced technology, there was no telescope as such to go into space and figure it out, the expansion of the universe or the contraction theory and other things. So yeah, so this is the knowledge. Now, when people were believing before Big Bang, they were believing universe to be static. This information which is there in the religious text was something which was not with the scientific information at that time, right? It was going in a very different direction. Now it is in the same direction. It may happen that in future some scientists say that there was no Big Bang, there is some other theory. Then again this book will be in the contradiction. right? So if that time comes, people will see what type of theory they get. But people who believe in the authority of this book will always believe that there was a time when this universe was a single point mass, and it got there was an explosion, and this matter energy was created. Right, so this was one example. Now coming back to my drawing desk, the Big Bang happened 13.8 billion years ago. And what happened as a result of this Big Bang? We get something which is called a combination of matter and energy, or matter associated with some energy, and some energy in pure form in the universe. Right? There are some principles behind the matter and energy, the laws of thermodynamics, which covers energy and different types and forms of matter. So I will not go into that detail, but this is something which you should know, that the matter and energy was created at this time. Now, what happened afterwards? Many things happen afterwards. So if we go again, somewhat ahead in the time, we'll see that somewhere around 4.5 million years ago, now we are in million years ago, right? No, not sorry. It was also billion years ago. My bad. 4.5 billion years ago. What we have our stable solar system. By stable solar system means that the the solar system which actually holds Earth as part of it, and we get energy from sun. This whole thing was stabilized somewhere around 4.5 billion years ago, right? And it actually resulted in some life supporting structure. So there was just enough sunlight, just enough water, just enough everything, gas, oxygen, nitrogen, to make life possible. So till this time there was no life. So it is just something happening in the universe. The matter energy was created, solar system was stabilized. Then what? Then we come to our next phase, which is somewhere around 3.5 to 3.7 billion years ago, right? This information which I am putting here, the timeline and dates, I have taken from some of the books, Wikipedia, internet. So, if someone says 3.8 billion years ago and I have written 3.7, 3.5, or someone says no, it was 3.2, that's why you are wrong. So I accept that. Don't scrutinize in that much detail. This is the rough estimate of the time period, right? It may go up and down, but this is what most majority of the scientists believe, that this is the time period where something happened. So 13.8 billion years ago, whatever we know about, like my hands, eyes, my specs, whatever is made up of matter, and there is some energy associated, it was created in its pure form. Then we have 4.5 billion years ago. If you can see the time period, it's quite significant. Then in 3.5 to 3.7 billion years ago, some early life form were started. Let me okay, this I will say early life forms. By early life forms, we mean if you study biology, refer high school biology, you must have a study about how the first cell was created. It was called prokaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cell was like a cell, and it was having something which was a unique matter, and that unique matter was having life properties, right? And we all know what that matter was. That matter was called protoplasm, right? So from an atheist point of view, people who don't believe in God, this creation of this first Big Bang here was first rabbit out of the magic hat. It just came out without any reason, nothing. We don't know, right? Now there is a very thin distinction here from the perception people have. The scientists themselves, most of them, they don't reject the presence of a divine God, right? They are agnostic about it. It may be, it may not be. We don't have a scientific proof, so we can't say it. That's somewhat a fair understand, fair stand, I will say. But people who have this passion of rejecting religion, rejecting God, they make a statement, they make a stance that since we don't have discovered, it means for sure there is no God. This religion is all made up, man-made thing, made up thing. But they believe in a greater magic, that something happened without something, like a system started to exist with some quality it never had before, right? So that kind of magic happened, number one magic. Number two magic, that everything fall in line so that the planet earth has got necessary material, necessary environment to create life. That was the second magic. And this was the third most important magic, that some 3.5 billion years ago, out of all the matters we know, out of all the elements, compound and mixture, we don't know all the compound and mixture which were created at that time. There was a material which was found, protoplasm, by itself without anything, and it started developing life properties. Life properties, it means it started on its own. It's in science we call this uh, proteopotency. We use this term for early life forms. Like there was a matter which was totipotent, it was having life properties. It started to grow by itself. That was protoplasm. Now, these were early protoplasmic creatures, were prokaryotic cell, as I said, they were not having a nuclear membrane. Then those prokaryotic cells were developed and they become eukaryotic cells. Like they were having defined cell membrane, defined nucleic acid. With this defined structure, the more complex life forms were evolved. Like, if you know the taxonomy, the human taxonomy, you know, not human taxonomy, the taxonomy of life, you know that in your school days you must have read about this, that there are 5 kingdoms of living thing. Like there are those kingdoms are kingdom Monera, Protista, fungi, plant, and animals, right? So these are the 5 kingdoms. So those kingdoms started getting developed in complex life forms. Now further, you know that these kingdoms are further classified into phylums, class, order, genus, species. And in animal kingdom, we have got some, what I recall when I was in school, 1999, 2000. At that time, there were 31 phylums in animal kingdom. Out of that, 9 were major, like phylum Porifera, Nidaria, Platyhelminthes, Escalmenthes, Annelida, Mollusca, Chordata, Echinodermata, Annelida, I think. Yeah. So these are the major phylums, and phylums are subdivided: class, order, genus, species. So this is the classification order any living thing actually is categorized into, right? So Homo sapiens, Homo is the genus, and sapiens is the species which modern human beings are called in a scientific term. Now, this whole thing took place in some millions of years ago, right? So if I go back to my drawing board, so after 3.5 to 3.7 billion years ago, uh, in somewhere around 600 to 800 million years ago, right? So if I go here, sorry, somewhere around 600 to 800 million years ago, animals were the animal kingdom, I will say, started taking shape. So as I said, like the living thing are of five kingdom: moneras, protista, fungi, plant, animals. Right. So this is the whole living thing. Out of the whole living thing, you this is also very surprising that 97% of them are where they are in sea, and only 3% are on land, the dry land, right? And out of 3%, animal kingdom is again is a minority, and out of that minority, human beings are the very less. Like in animal, I said there are 9 phylums. Out of that, there is a phylum called chordata, and in chordata we have Homo sapiens, right? So this is uh, how the evolution looks like from an evolution point of view. As a religious person, I don't reject evolution as such. Like, okay, one of the name of God is Al-Bari, the one who is the evolver. So so this is one of the fact of this universe, like this whole ecology we live in, that things evolve, right? So there is no disagreement in that, but the disagreement happens when it comes to the point of human creation, right? I will come to that in this story. I will discuss that part as well. Now in 600 to 800 million years ago, what happened is this thing which I was trying to explain, that this kingdom was getting shaped. Before this time period, we had moneras, protista, fungi, and early plant structures, angiosperm, gymnosperm. You will go into the classification if you study botany and zoology. You will know more about this. But from a point of view of information security professionals, I'm just telling you this story so that one is it is interesting to know this history, and second, we'll know that how where we stand in this whole universe, right? So when modern Homo sapiens came into being, so what scientists say that uh, that if we go back, no, sorry, go forward to somewhere around 2000 years ago, or 200,000 years ago, sorry. Yeah. So in 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were, yeah, like the first humans, we will say, were are supposed to come into being, right? And the human beings which we know as of now, like the modern human beings, they were they are found, believed to be found from scientific evidences, somewhere around 140,000 to 200,000 years ago, right? Now this creation of human being is something which is the parting path between the core religious people and the people who don't subscribe to religion as such. They say that, okay, if there is a proof that it was something which was not falling in line in the evolutionary process, and it is scientifically proven, then we take it, otherwise we don't take it, no matter what religion says about it. So yeah, so that's one stand people take, right? So here we see 140 to 200,000 years ago, we have humans developing uh, cognition, metacognition, right? Now, I told you three miracles: the Big Bang, a stable solar universe, the creation of life, and when it comes to humans, what is unique about humans is something which is called consciousness, and with consciousness comes metacognition. Now, what is this consciousness and metacognition? This is also very important to understand. But when it comes to knowing how humans were created and how humans were up, like what was the history of human creation from a religious point of view, I will try to give you some references, which is very interesting. If you look um, into the reference, which is 2312. In 2312, the book which we follow, and we believe that it's from God Almighty itself, and it was spoken by Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that in this book, in chapter 23, verse 12, it said that we created humankind from an extract of clay. So basically, the foundation of human beings is earthly, that we were created from the matters of earth, and this creation was given some specific quality, which takes forms in consciousness and metacognition. That reference also I would like to give you briefly. If you go into the second chapter and verse 30 to 37, basically there is this interesting conversation between God and angels, right? So it's said that when God is saying that, remember the time when the Lord said to the angels, I'm going to place a successive human authority on earth. Right? They asked Allah, will you place in it someone who will spread corruption there and shed blood while we glorify your praise and proclaim your holiness? Allah responded, I know what you don't know. Right? So if you just read this verse and don't think or don't ponder in the meaning of it, it will be just like another religious text. But what I would like you to think on this verse is, or ayah we call in Quran, is to look into this verse in the context of the evolutionary discussion which we are having here. Uh, so before human beings, when human beings were not created, there was something, and that something was having some kind of experience, some kind of information with the angels, right? So when God said that we are going to have a successive authority on earth, right, and they will be humans, like it's not uh, the human word is not there. Actually, it's understood that this verse is about humans because of the context of the verse. In Arabic, it says, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Right, the successive authority, the word Khalifa is there. قالوا وتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. So here what happened is the angels know that there was some creature before, like there was something on earth, and what they did before is they shed blood and they spread corruption, right? Now I will go back to my drawing board and I will try to explain this here. If we talk about any animal except human beings, how they work. So they work on a system. If I call this as a being or as an animal, so they are part of this earth, they are part of this ecology, and they work on a stimulus and response. And to control this stimulus and response, animals have something which is called central nervous system. It has got brain and the whole nervous system, right? And this whole thing is controlled with electrical signals, right? Electrical impulse. This impulse is the word impulse we use when it talks about the whole physiology or body of the animal. But we I will use this word stimulus. Stimulus is any thing which forces an animal to act in a way. So a stimulus response. So if all the animals, including human beings, we see our structure, we do have our brain, central nervous system, and the whole fabric of nervous system in all our body. And we do also work in a stimulus and response. Like if I pinch somewhere, it will create some response. If this pinching is creating a stimulus which is unbearable, then we say that we are having pain, right? So we do have this understanding. Now in this stimulus and response, there is a rule, there is a law which is behind this stimulus and response. And if you go back to your high school, your studies which you have done in science before, we know that that's called the food chain. We know this law by food chain. This whole ecology is driven with food chain, right? All the animals are dependent on all other animals in some way or other, right? So someone feeds someone, right? So if there is a lion and lion feels hunger, so hunger is the stimulus, and with the response he kills someone, because that's the only way an animal can survive. So hunger is the stimulus and killing is the response, right? So this is how angels see the creation of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created before humans in this whole evolutionary chain is basically doing this stimulus response thing. And this whole stimulus response and the food chain control is with God, right? They don't have an understanding or an awareness of this rule or this law being governed, being acted on them, right? Imagine a lion starts thinking that, okay, why I'm gonna kill this animal? Okay, what if I captivate hundreds of them somewhere and I don't have to go for hunting? So that is called metacognition, thinking about what I am thinking, right? That's specific to humans. So every animals before the creation of human beings were acting on this stimulus response system. And what angel said that if God is gonna give one of the animal in this food chain an authority, what he's gonna do? Eventually, what he's gonna do? He's gonna destroy every other thing, because that's the knowledge angels had for earthly creation, right? You know about dinosaurs, and one of the theory of dinosaur extinction is that the dinosaurs who were like the predators, they wanted to eat other dinosaurs. They become so powerful that they disturb the whole ecology of Earth, and that's how they got destroyed. This is one of the theory. I'm not saying that this is the only theory. This dinosaur story is not there, but we can deduce this understanding that if at this stage a T-Rex or any strong dinosaur is given this understanding of self-awareness and metacognition, then how humans will what will the condition of human beings and other animals, right? So this is something you can think of. Now this stimulus response, with this stimulus response understanding, what angel said to God, that will you place in it someone, will you place in it someone who will spread corruption there and shed blood, while we glorify you, glorify your praise and proclaim your holiness, right? So this is very natural to understand that in the evolutionary process of the creation, whatever God created before human beings, if any of the creature was given this thing, which is having only the knowledge of a stimulus and response, if he was giving a dominion, he was giving some sort of supremacy, then he would have destroyed the whole thing. But what God responded is that Allah responded, I know what you don't know, right? Right? You just wait and watch what this creation is going to do. Now, that part is more interesting, right? So, I told you about stimulus and response and how this I make a sense of it. Now, coming to again here, this is animal, and I will just draw a human being here, like not human being as such, like a legs and feet, but just will give you a depiction. Humans do have a stimulus response, right? They do have a central nervous system. They do have the same electrical impulses coming in and going out, but they have something in addition. So this central nervous system will enable something which is called thinking. What is thinking? In a sense that you get a sense of what is around you, right? We also have got this thinking thing. So there is a laptop in front of me, I have an Apple Pencil, I know, but what human have something which is in addition is called self awareness, or self-aware, being self-aware. So being self-aware enables you to think what you are thinking. If you think what you are thinking, it will enable you to understand the laws which are acting on this whole layer. If you remember Einstein's quote that you can't solve a problem at the layer it exists. Einstein was a Jew, if you know, and the Jewish tradition, they have the same understanding as what Muslim traditions have. If you look into the books, Abrahamic faith, and all the concepts of human creation, hereafter, day of judgment, most of the things are almost same, except the point where they don't accept the prophecies, some of the prophecies. Okay, that's the subject of religion. But his quotation also is coming from these religious roots. I don't see them from a very people who are not religious and atheists. They think in a different way. But if you look back into the roots of the thinking, you will see the same concepts coming from the same book, like the Old Testament, and the same thing is in Quran. Now, this self-awareness make you think what you are thinking, which animals can't, right? And this is what is called metacognition. Cognition. Now, metacognition, when you think what you are thinking, then you try to name things. That's the first way of acquiring knowledge. You try to make sense of your surrounding. You name things. you say that, okay, this is something which is long, this is the pencil, this is me, this is my hand, this is a speck. You get an awareness around you. Now this self awareness, you can't explain this in terms of some scientific physiological process or some chemical reaction or something. You won't find a trace of it. It's something which is not explainable in a scientific term as of now, right? People may disagree. They will say that no, we have done many experimentation on monkeys and rats and things, and we know that if they are trained in a certain way, they try to emulate something. I also accept the same those arguments, and every like people who follow religion, they will also accept those arguments. But that is working on the central nervous system layer. Like you are training your body or your system in a specific stimulus response situation to work if that stimulus response is again present. Like you can experiment with a rat by putting something and it will go there, and he will accidentally hit some electrical wire, and after some 10 or 15 times he will not go there. But that is tuning the stimulus response process. But getting this power of self awareness in which you think what you are thinking is something which you can't develop. And if it is developed, then we discuss, then we will discuss about this. But at this stage, it's something which is which we believe from a religious point of view, it's a God given attribute. This is in the same succession of what all miracles happened, like the Big Bang, the creation of matter energy, which was not before and it just popped out. We say that it can't happen without a supreme or divine intervention. Then stabilizing the solar system to make an environment for humans to exist, it can't happen on its own. Randomness will not bring that kind of perfection, basically. Then creation of protoplasm, like something which is created, which is self-sustaining, totipotent on its own. Again, we believe that this was a miraculous intervention. And then you have this consciousness or metacognition. Again, we say that it's a God-given miracle. We may get some scientific explanation around it, but the origin, we say, it's coming from a divine supreme power, supreme authority, which we called Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or God, you can say. Now this is how the metacognition is, and with this metacognition we try to make sense of everything which we know. Now if we look into the next verses here, let me see if I can quickly jump there. So this was 30, where I said that they said that you haven't God has never created an animal which can understand the divine laws and act peacefully on earth. This is very profound to understand. God had never created before a being from earth which can understand the divine laws. And what are the divine laws? The first divine laws is the law of truthfulness, being truthful, right? Knowing, understanding, and saying things as they are. So that is first like divine law of this universe which we come to know as human being. Then there's being honest, being truthful. I already said, being honest, to sacrifice, to love someone, to know God on a very higher level. So those are the qualities which can only come if the person is self-aware and he develops metacognition. The animals never had, and since they never had, and if they are given a supremacy, they will definitely cause corruption and shed blood. Now there is a very good resemblance here. You will see that people who reject truthfulness, people who reject sacrifice, like self-sacrifice. I'm not saying that human sacrifice, killing someone. I'm saying sacrificing your time, your wealth, your comfort for the betterment of something, or for achieving something greater, right? That's sacrifice. So if those people don't do that, they will eventually spread corruption and shed blood, right? All the politicians, you see around, if they are not truthful, they will see them doing the act of corruption. So if someone consciously limit himself or keep himself or herself away from these fundamental natural laws, which as humans we have given as a gift from the creator of the god, if we say that, okay, this is truthful, but I don't buy this truth, this will not work for me, so I will go my own way, I will go this way, which is not truthful, but since I am an authority, I will do it. Or let's rename the truthfulness as some other word. Let's call it diplomacy in the name of national security. Let's call it saying something to people to gain vote. It's false, but it works, so it's good for me. So that will lead to corruption. Eventually that will lead to corruption. We have seen in India that politicians, when they openly lie and they are asked that why they are lying, so they renamed the word lie, saying that this is not lie, this is jumla. And jumla, they say, it's a derived from Urdu word. It means sentence. They say that this is just to comfort people who are ignorant and to win their confidence for a greater good, which is to establish the country or for the national security or whatever lie they make. So as a human being, if they forsake, if they leave the principle of truth, they will eventually fall into the spreading corruption and shedding blood. So this is one thing. And now going to the next step, then he taught Adam the names of all things, and he presented them to the angel and said, tell me the name of these if what you say is true. This is also very profound. As I said, with metacognition, you get this power of making sense of things around you. If you don't have this metacognition, you are just an animal. You don't know. You are just a part of a natural flow, part of the nature. You just know your stimulus. Okay, I'm hungry, I have to eat. I see something, a threat or something interesting, I just go after it, or I just move from my place. That's a stimulus and response, right? But when you try to understand things, which is try to think what you are thinking, then you try to name things. So naming thing is something which is the very first step of gaining knowledge, right? Which was actually given to Adam, which we believe as the first human being. So he taught Adam the name of all things, and then he presented them to the angels and said, tell me the name of things if what you say is true. This was a very historical moment, because angels, they were always they knew what is happening on the earth. They have never seen a creature coming out of earth and exhibiting this metacognitive ability, right? They replied, glory to be you, we have no knowledge except what you taught us, you are all too knowing, all wise. Allah said, O Adam, inform them of their names. Then when Adam did, Allah said, did I not tell you that I know the secret of the heaven and the earth, and I know what you reveal and what you conceal? So first it was asked to angels, and they refused that. Wow, they don't know what are these things. They were having the limited knowledge. Now the same thing was asked to Adam, and Adam actually said, Adam alayhi salam, we say out of respect, Adam alayhi salam said that these are these things. We don't know what the details of the thing which was asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Adam, but we definitely know with these ayah that there were certain things which was asked. And when angels see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created something from earth, something from clay, and in the whole history of creation, anything coming out of earth never have this had this ability of speaking and showing knowledge that this is something and this is something, right? Then they were like thinking, oh, this is something unique, like they can bear the burden of carrying the law, right? So Adam remember when we said to angels prostrate before Adam, this was they all did, but not Iblis, who refused and acted arrogantly, becoming unfaithful. Right. So this was a brief of explanation which I wanted to put you from the reference of the religious textbook. Now, what we see here is that with self-awareness we get metacognition, we try to name things, we try to make sense of things, and that's where the door of all knowledge is open to us. Now we can see what is happening around us, we can make a sense out of it, and then we can act, right? So with this self-awareness nature, what happens is we get knowledge, and this knowledge is basically always about something good and something bad, right? This is the ultimate thing in gaining knowledge. Nowadays we say that, okay, I have knowledge of routing, switching, firewalls, this and that. That's good. We know certain things, but eventually if we scrutinize that the use of these, we'll come to a point where we will see that whether this knowledge is being used for good or some bad. We can't get this idea of good and bad detached from ourselves, right? So people who who deny basically this whole definition of good and bad, this good and bad is inherent in everyone. Like no one can think of any action out of its consequence, in the vacuum of consequence. Everything you do eventually fall into these two category, right? So if you deny this, we say that is Satanism. So basically Satanism is, in Hindi we say that ये तो दानव प्रवृत्ति का व्यक्ति है, मतलब ये शैतान इंसान है, right? हिंदी उर्दू we say that. शैतान किसको कहते हैं, मतलब means like who we call शैतान, the one who don't believe in good and bad, right? He just believe that my way is the highway, my way or highway, right? So that's Satanism. Now Satanism could be theistic Satanism or atheistic Satanism, right? Now theistic Satanism is the Satanism where people believe there is a God, and this God has given this metacognition. As part of this metacognition, we know something is good and something is bad, but I will do whatever suits to me. If good suits to me, I will do good thing. If bad suits to me, I will do bad thing. That's theistic Satanism. They are theistic people. They believe in God, but they follow the path of Saturn, right? There is a cult which says that we believe in Iblis, basically the fallen angel, and yeah, because he was right, he was not arrogant. Those are theistic Satanists. And atheistic Satanism is basically people who don't say that, they will say that, okay, there is nothing good and bad in this world, right? Whatever is suits me is good, whatever do not suit me is bad, and I don't believe in any god or anything. So they are atheistic Satanists. They will never call them as Satanists. They will say that no, we are the nice people, but they reject the divine good and bad which is inherent in their heart, right? If they feel good about killing someone, they go and kill someone. if they feel good about you know, doing some injustice, they do it, right? So that's how this whole thing is. Now with this one, there are people who acknowledge this good and bad. If you acknowledge this good and bad, then you are religious. Now there are some people who don't believe in God, but they acknowledge good and bad, right? So they are on the path, on the path, and there is a promise. There is a promise in this holy book which I show to you. Um, uh, in the book, there is a verse where it says that we will definitely show our signs in distant horizon and in themselves, unless it's clear to them that this book is the truth, and do they not believe in it at that time. So everyone who is on the path of acknowledging the good and bad in their heart eventually will get a knocking from God about the ultimate truth, if they are on the path of acknowledging good and bad. If they are not, if they are behind whatever they want, whatever they wish, they will not get it eventually. So this is how the structure is, which we understand from a Muslim point of view. Now, whatever religion we say that we are following a religion is not religion as such in its totality, because we most of the time are following the presented rituals, the presented cultural practice, and we associate some good and bad with that, and we try to acknowledge the insecurity or greed we develop over the time, with some type of god we create by our own hand, by our own concept. That becomes the religion, and that's the main problem. That the whole purpose of religion, which was people to understand the divine laws, they become a different type of animal in believing in some god, and try to look materialistically, try to look into the things which religion prohibits, right? So people will go into some dargah, some mandir, or some church or mosque, and they will say that they will ask God for some benefit, like something in the life. That's not for, that's not the true purpose of religion itself, right? So here is the definition of good and bad, and this is the foundation of any discussion when it comes to crime, when it comes to even social engineering, which we will be discussing starting the next episode. I hope you got a fair bit of information on the context. The information was interesting. It will be interesting to people who are having this appetite of learning both religious and scientific and technology domain at the same time. If you find it useful, best of luck. Uh, I hope it was useful for all of you, and I wish to see you again in my next episode, which will be completely CISSP focused. This was just some information which I thought is relevant, interesting, and informative for all of you. If you find this information useful, put a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for similar content, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Thanks for watching.